This is Michael Mastro, and we're going to look at the transformational Vedic astrology chart for Judy Garland. Um, there's a new movie that just came out with uh, Renee Zellweger portraying Judy. I haven't seen it yet, but anyway, let's look at her chart. So, at the date she was born, if you look to the eastern horizon, you would see the constellation associated with Gemini rising at 18 degrees and 7 seconds. This rising degree of the rising sign becomes the most effective point of every house, and any planet that, like Jupiter, that's within 5 degrees of that rising sign degree has a lot of impact in our life. Some say it's stronger than exaltation. So we're going to first look at how the planets are operating, then we're going to look at when the planets are operating during her life, and then we're going to look at what remedies might have been helpful for her. She's a very famous um actress, singer. So in Transformation Vedic Astrology, the Multrikona signs, which are 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, and 11, have a lot of impact in their life. In fact, wherever you see those Multrikona signs in the chart, whatever house they happen to be in, are the main things that she's working on in her life. So let's just go through those. So the first sign of Aries, ruled by Mars, is in the 11th house. So she's working on income and friends. Let's see, then the fourth sign of Cancer, ruled by Moon, is in the second house. She's working on wealth and recognition and continuation of the marital bond. She's working on, you see, the fifth sign of Leo, ruled by Sun, in the third house. She's working on communication. Uh, and then you see the sixth sign of Virgo in the fourth house. That's ruled by Venus. I mean, yeah, no, excuse me. That's ruled by Mercury. So she's working on family, her happiness. You see the seventh sign of Libra, ruled by Venus, in the fifth house. She's working on in the entertainment business. She's working on, she has children. She's working on her investments. You see the ninth sign of Sagittarius, ruled by Jupiter, in the seventh house. So she's working on her relationships. And then you see the 11th sign of Aquarius, ruled by Saturn, in the ninth house, which has to do with good fortune. So those are the main areas that she's working on in this life. Now let's go through each of the planets and what they represent in her chart and how they're operating. So any planet that's more than 25 degrees is said to be in old age, and any planet that's less than 5 degrees is said to be in um, adolescence. So if you're very young or very old, it's very hard to protect yourself. So these planets become weak. They cannot protect or promote their own significations. So, for example, Sun, just slightly weak. Mars is more than 25. Then you have Venus, more than 25. So those planets are just slightly weak in degrees, but other things can cause weakness. So let's go through. Sun is ruling this house of communication and performing arts, placed in the 12th house of losses, expenses, separations. So it says that there may be losses. There may be spiritual growth also. This is the house of enlightenment, or losses and expenses due to her acting career. In fact, Sun it also represents father. So her father died when she was very young, although she was close to her and close to him. And then Sun being in this 12th house also has to do with addictions and numerous breakdowns. She later in life had debt and tax issues as well. So Moon is at 6 degrees. It's ruling the house of wealth and recognition, fame, and continuation of the marital bond. And it is placed in the seventh house, which is ruled by Jupiter. And Jupiter is afflicted by Ketu and Rahu. So even though Moon is not less than 5 degrees, its dispositor or its landlord, Jupiter, is afflicted. So it automatically, a planet cannot be any stronger than its landlord. So Moon becomes weak as well. So Moon is in this house of wealth and recognition and continuation of the marital bond. So, and it's placed in this house of relationships. So Moon also represents mother. Made her mother was really the source of her career. Started pushing her into her career at the age of 2, and was pushing her all along. So in that way, the mother had a very strong impact in her life, but also caused her a lot of unhappiness because she had no childhood. She was constantly working, and it later led to instability in her marriages. She had 5 marriages. She was very emotional. Now, Gemini is an air sign. It's a dual air sign, and it can make you on the exterior, she seemed very happy, but she had a very unhappy life. So, you had this dual personality. You give a happy face to the outer world, but on the inside, there was a lot of self hatred, basically, because at a very young age, producers were telling her that she was not pretty compared to other actresses, and that she had a weight problem. They would actually take food away from her, and caused her to have a very, very poor self-image. Caused her to take drugs to lose weight, take drugs to go to sleep, take drugs to get up in the morning, and so this led to a long source of addiction for her. Partly because of Sun in that 12th house, I'd say. Mars is at 26 degrees, just slightly weak, being over 25 degrees. It is ruling the house of income, and it is placed in the house of health issues and debts and losses and delays. So it gave her energy to make a big income, but also caused losses and debts as well, and gave her a very volatile Mars's inflammation, and caused her to have a very volatile personality, probably because of the drugs and being pushed so hard to work like as much as 18 hours a day. And she was a hard person to work with, and also led to I think Mars also could have led to the addiction issues, since it's in this house of health issues. Mercury's at 7 degrees. It's blessed by Moon, and it is ruling the house of happiness and home life, and it's placed in the very first house. Now, the planets that are in the first house often are a key to what you came here to do, your purpose, and communication through acting, and Venus is performing arts. is definitely a key to her life purpose. But Mercury, Mercury's basically um, giving her, I think her success is attributed to both Mercury and Venus being in this first house. Um, Jupiter's at 16 degrees, and remember, it's afflicted by Rahu and Ketu, which were within 3 degrees. And it's also close to the most effective point. So Jupiter has a big impact in her life. So, I think I'd say that this is the cause, probably along with Moon, of her, 5 marriages not working out, and, issues with children, etc. Um, Venus is at 26 degrees. Now, Jupiter is also representing husband and children. So, yeah, again, being afflicted by Rahu and Ketu, strong desire for relationships, Rahu's desire, but, causing ups and downs, eclipses in her relationships. Venus, gives her that talent, and it is ruling the house of children and education and investments, as well as entertainment and her love affairs. So, and it is placed in that first house. So, it brings a lot of focus on wanting to be beautiful and but not feeling beautiful inside. Uh, so let's see here, and then also her daughter was very talented, Liza Minnelli. Um, but I think Venus, along with Mercury, gave her abilities to sing. I mean, she wasn't a lot of people don't feel like she was a great singer, but and not as beautiful as other actresses, but definitely supported her talent. So and her success. Saturn's at 8 degrees. Now, Saturn is ruling the house of good fortune, placed in a house of happiness, home life. And Saturn often means, you have to work very hard to gain that good fortune. And she was actually in 32 films, worked as long as 18 hours a day. But Saturn also represents longevity. She died at a very young age. Let's see here. And it's very close to Rahu and Ketu, but it's not within 5 degrees, but almost. So probably, Rahu and Ketu afflicting Saturn definitely had some effect on drug abuse. Rahu is also drugs. Let's look at Rahu and Ketu. So Rahu and Ketu are Rahu gives the desires for happiness and home life, and Ketu gives intuition into aspiring a career. And when you have this configuration, it often means there's it's hard to maintain a balance in home life and work life, and that's probably attributed also to her not having success in 5 different marriages, because she worked very hard. She wasn't a great, had a tough time being a mom because she was working so hard. And Rahu is also has to do with abuse. She was in several abusive relationships. She was abusive to herself as well. Tried to commit suicide several times, I guess 10 or 12 times. And it's drugs, alcohol, etc., like that. Let's look at the timing of events in her life. She moved from Minnesota or somewhere in the Midwest to LA in 1926 during a Mercury period. Mercury has to do with home, so changed her residence, her home. She was in the Wizard of Oz movie, which is probably one of her most famous movies, in 1936 during a Venus period. We look at the Vimshatari Dasha periods here. During that period, and Venus, again, acting, uh, performing arts, beauty, entertainment, all of that. So strong period of time for her. Then she had her daughter Liza Minnelli, also during her Venus period. Venus representing the house of, ruling the house of children. Beautiful daughter. She had got 5 Grammys in 1962 during a Mars period, so large income of success and money. And then in June 22nd, 1969, she overdosed and finally was successful in suicide during a Rahu period. Rahu's drugs, Rahu's unexpected events. And if we look at the transit chart for that period of time, let's see here, let's just go back to 1969 and June of that, June, we look at June, and we want to see the 22nd of June. So what we look for, when someone dies is usually there's either Rahu and Ketu are close to the most effective point, afflicting a lot of the houses. So this chart is just basically a circular chart. The inner circle has to do with where the planets were when you were born in the natal chart, and the outer circle is where the transiting planets at this particular time. June 22nd, 1969. And so we want to see if any planets are close to the most effective point because they'll have a lot of impact. And what we see is that Mercury is almost at 16 degrees, 2 degrees from the most effective point, traveling through the house of end of life, separation, feeling addiction, depression, huge depression at that point. I think that's a very strong, one of the strongest indicators at that point that could have predicted, her death at that time. So, what can we do to strengthen this chart? So, one thing about Geminis, they as opposed to other signs, the only malefics are Rahu and Ketu. So we want to transform Rahu and Ketu. Rahu by listening to Shiva chants and helping people who cannot help themselves, chants and charities. We want to transform Ketu by helping spiritual organization and listening to Ganesh chants. Again, we transform the malefics through chants and charities. Now, the other planets can all be strengthened through colors. They all need some strengthening. Sun by wearing orange colors and a ruby. Moon wearing moonstone and white colors. Mars wearing red colors and red coral. Mercury wearing green colors and emeralds. Jupiter wearing yellow sapphire and yellow colors. Saturn wearing blue colors, blue sapphire. So an easier way to strengthen all of the planets that need strengthening is to wear a kavash. A kavash is a locket containing the Devata yantras of these planets, and that's a very efficient way without worrying about the quality of gemstones and the expense to strengthen all at once all the planets that need strengthening. And this would have helped her, you know, avoid, the depression, would have strengthened her sun, which would have given her um, a better chance, and moon would have given her a more loving mother, better, and her son, by strengthening sun, probably her father would have been around longer. Mars would have given her income. So towards the end of her life, she was in a lot of debt, a lot of tax issues, and was broke and penniless apparently when she died. So again, um, Mercury being in that house of losses, expenses, separation, depression. Um, and Jupiter would have given her more harmony in her relationships, and then Saturn, more good fortune. She, basically had a very, very unhappy life, but huge success due to the Venus and Mercury in the first house. Well, thank you for listening. This is Michael Mastro with Transformational Vedic Astrology. If you would like a Vedic astrology reading, you can go to www.American Institute of Vastu under services. We have several types of astrology readings, or you can also, on that same website, learn Transformation Vedic Astrology and become certified to help other people. I think this is a very, very good way to utilize astrology, which was meant to be a guide to your happiness, and understand what remedies need to be taken, and certain patterns that are in your life so that you can overcome them. So thank you again for listening.